Hi and welcome to the very first episode of Fix NextGen podcast series, the FIXPod. I'm Rugi, I'm Relationship Manager for some of the top trading member firms on the London Stock Exchange and Turquoise, and I'll be your host for this episode. In this podcast series, our goal is to support the next generation of leaders in trading as they navigate the industry. In each episode, we'll be focusing on different aspects of trading through the conversations with industry experts. Today, we are kicking the things off by focusing on the bigger picture, the trading landscape. To help me with this task, I'm thrilled to have our very own Richard Worrell with us, who leads Equities Trading at LSEG. Rich, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our mini studio here.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you
How
for
was
having
your morning
me.
so
It's
far?
good so far. As always, nice and busy, which I like, so it's good. Yeah, this is just a nice opportunity to talk and help the next gen.
Well, thank you so much for making the time. Having you
pleasure.
here on this first episode is not coincidence, but I'm keen to hear the story from you. So can you start by introducing yourself first, your current role, what do you do at the moment?
So it feels a bit odd introducing myself to you, but yeah. But I'm Richard Worrell, so I'm the co-head of Equity Trading here at the London Stock Exchange. My role is to head up the business development part of the business. So really, in some ways, relatively simple. We go out and talk to clients, we have open-ended conversations, and we basically try and help them trade more with the London Stock Exchange and Turquoise, help our business, help their business, and that's really my job, as it were.
And if we take a step back at your background in trading, how you started, where you started, and how your career progressed ever since, I'm sure our audience will find it very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is why I kind of wanted to do this, because my background is maybe a little bit different in that I didn't go to university, so I ended up coming straight into the industry via my A-levels. I was studying for my A-levels at the time, and then, quite extraordinarily, was working in a Pizza Hut while I was studying, and I served a family, and the father of the family came over to me and said, what are you doing with your life? And it was a very odd moment where I kind of said, I don't know. And he said, look, I've got a job going potentially as a trainee dealer in an asset management company in the city. I had absolutely no idea what this guy was going on about. He said, go away and ask somebody, do a bit of research. I kind of did that and realised actually potentially it was quite an interesting opportunity. So I sort of skipped university, went straight into the world of work. I guess haven't looked back since. You say career progressed, your career changes. I think the real reason for doing this was the path is not straight, it's not clear, it's not easy. It takes a lot of twists, a lot of turns, and how you navigate those is key. And I think for me, giving that little bit of hopefully help to some of those younger people as they go on that winding path is what this is all about.
It also shows how sometimes someone can come to your life and completely change the direction of it, doesn't it?
I think that's so it's a good anecdote, because when I say to people that, when I tell people that story, most people say, wow, that was lucky. And it's interesting that for years and years, I always kind of agreed with that. And then what I realized was actually, it isn't just luck. Then the other element of that story is when that family came in, it was late on a Sunday night, and actually what we had was an odd situation where me and my friend, who I'm still good friends with, we used to take it in turns to serve people on a Sunday night because it was a quiet period, and he didn't want to serve that table, and he said, you do it, I'm too tired. And it kind of made me realise that my desire to work harder than him meant I got an opportunity. So that instilled immediately a hard work ethic in me that made me realise if you work harder, you might get other opportunities. And then it also showed me that never be closed to opportunity, because you never know where you are in life, where an opportunity might come your way, which might just give you something that just creates a very, very different path than the one I thought I was going to go down, of potentially being a journalist or whatever I was thinking about doing at that stage.
Look, I was actually planning to keep the advice for NextGen to the end of the podcast. I think Richard already started giving the advice from the start. So, okay, so you've got this job. The person. By the way, are you still in touch with the person who first gave you? So
actually, we recently had a celebration for the firm I work for, Henderson. One of the people there had a 30-year anniversary for being there, which is pretty extraordinary. And that person was at that event. So,
oh, perfect.
So yeah. So I talked to him. So.
Where did your career take you afterwards?
Yeah, so I stayed in that firm. So this was a firm called at the time Henderson, which is now Janus Henderson Investors, and I stayed there for about 9 or 10 years or so, and then I just felt it was the right time to pursue a different opportunity. So I started on the buy side. I spent 9 years there, predominantly equity trading, and then I moved to the sell side. I joined a firm called NextGen, which is now more commonly known as SEB. So I was sales trading Scandinavian equities for about 4.5 years before I joined Redburn, which has now gone through a merger and things to be called Redburn Atlantic.
Yeah.
And I was there for about 6 years again, sales trading, this time European equities. And then I moved over time, I then kind of moved again. So I then went back to Henderson as they were going through the merger to become Janus Henderson. So rejoined them and then became the head of EMEA equity trading there. So I was there for 7-8 years. So I kind of done a couple of different parts of the industry, probably never been any good at any of them. So I thought I'd try the London Stock Exchange Group next and see if I can do something that sticks at some stage.
Yeah, well, what a journey, honestly. But then at the same time, when I listen to your experience, it just makes it clear that when we say the trading industry, it's actually made up of different components, different institutions and types of firms. You've mentioned that you started with the buy side, then you were at the sell side firm, and then you went back to the buy side, and now you are working for a venue, actually too, the exchange and the MTF.
Yeah.
So maybe you could describe to us how these different types of firms in the industry differ from each other, maybe starting with those three.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go beyond those three. I'll go beyond my, until I work for another one, I guess. But no, that's not going to happen. So the buy side first of all. So you would typically think of your savings, your investments, your pensions. You want them to go up over time. Typically, you would give that responsibility to an asset manager or a hedge fund, and hopefully what they do is they make that £10 that you put in there turn into 20, 30, 50, whatever the number is, over a period of time. That's the job of the buy side. It's typically called the buy side because they're buying services from others, but that is the job of an asset manager, is to make that that money go up a lot. The job of the trading desk, which I worked on, when it used to be, really when I started it, and the trading desk only just started, they became centralised dealing desks. Fund managers quite often used to do a lot of their own executions, and then centralised dealing desks came in. I guess probably at the start of my career, so we won't go fully back to when exactly that was, but so we went through that period, and I think what we always described our job as adding the pennies to the pound. So your job is effectively, first of all, on that trading desk is that alpha preservation. So your fund manager wants to buy something, you want to buy that as well as you can without giving up all of their alpha. And then the better that you get at that, then you're really adding alpha to that process, and that's what we would all like to be doing. So that's probably the buy side. There's lots of different types of firms within there, whether it's mutual funds and all of the types of funds that you can have, investment trusts and things. Maybe that's one that somebody can do on another.
Yeah, exactly. We'll probably need to keep it for a separate, completely episode.
Okay, that's a good idea. Then the sell side, so brokers, banks, typically think of those traditional JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all of those kind of firms. Please don't. I'll mention Morgan Stanley and Bank of America, and you make sure I get everybody's names in, but all very, very good firms. And that's typically called the sell side because they are selling their services, whether it be research, whether it be trading, whether it be algorithmic, electronic capabilities, all of those sorts of things. They're typically selling their services to the buy side, and their job is to provide what the buy side want, and that depends on each firm. A hedge fund might want something different to an institutional firm, but the job of the sell side is to provide those services to those different types of firms. So that is typically them. They obviously earn their money in different ways. But basically it's the same thing. It comes down to the fees and how you earn that money. Then I guess the exchanges. So obviously the most important part of the whole business is the exchange where we work, obviously. And a good little plug there. And I think really it's an interesting. One of the reasons I took this job on is the industry has changed a huge amount. And when I first started, potentially exchanges were very near the top of the execution waterfall, we call it, so priority. What you would typically do when you want to go and buy or sell something is you would go to an exchange via the broker. Now what happens is there's a lot of other venue types, as you allude to. The London Stock Exchange Group, for example, has got two, an exchange and the MTF, the multilateral trading facility. We have to serve our customers in different ways, but again, we play an important part in that ecosystem. That is where the buyers and sellers come together in a multilateral facility that everybody can access, and then that offers that ability to exchange, quite rightly the word there, the assets at what we would think is the fair price at the time.
So you've mentioned that the industry has changed.
Yep.
Now, in many years of your experience in the industry, that you didn't name the years, but during that time, I'm sure you witnessed firsthand how industry have evolved, especially like in recent years, for example. We've seen the rise of big data, data analytics, and emerging technologies like AI, machine learning. How do you think this has affected the trading strategies and how it will impact the future of trading?
It's a good question. I mean, you use the word evolved in there, and it's funny, I was watching something the other day. I was showing a colleague a video I actually did at the London Stock Exchange like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And what was interesting to me was in that video, I used the phrase constant evolution, and that is still valid. So this industry is evolving rapidly. And my tip to a young person is be adaptable. Be able to change, be able to, think about what is happening and look at those trends, whether it be AI at the moment, whatever those trends are. ETFs are having an extraordinary growth phase. There's been a real seismic shift in the market as to how that's grown. So you just have to be adapting to change. And I think that is that is the best thing about the job. One of the things I've really loved about this industry is almost no 2 days are the same. So whether I think back to my buy side days, the cost of buying a certain asset changes day by day. It's not a constant, because the market evolves. Something might happen, with tariffs, for example, or there might be some Chinese macro that comes out that affects the price of a UK asset, for example. There's US economic data out that changes the price of a German equity, for example. There's so many things that are going on at all times that you have to be aware of. So you have to stay on top of that. And I think you're right that AI is probably the theme at the moment, and I think it's going to continue that way. We've seen one of our competitors, for example, have brought out an AI new order type in the US, which can be really interesting. I just think it's staying on top of these things. I think I would never sit here and say I'm a huge expert on any one thing. It's about understanding everything. Again, the tip to the younger person is read and take in as much information about the industry as you can at all times, and just keep adapting.
Yeah, I think trading is indeed an ever-evolving world, and probably the next gen, our audience today, and myself included, we will see impact of AI most profoundly during our careers. Speaking of, and you kind of jumped the gun there a bit, but one piece of advice, if I were to ask for our audience, for someone who is looking to break into the industry, succeed, what should they focus on? What are the key knowledge or skills they need to succeed?
It's a very, very good question. Again, it changes a bit. If I think when I first started, there was a perception that you had to be an economics grad, right? It was like, we need an economics grad, we need a maths grad. Now it's very STEM focused. everybody's got to be a data scientist, everybody's got to be able to code and all that sort of stuff. So it changes all of the time. And if you think of things like, again, I'll step slightly out of my comfort zone, but natural language processing and things, maybe you won't even need to code. Maybe you'll just be able to talk into the PC and it'll all do it for you, maybe. So I think adapting is that key thing. I will always take it back to just work hard. Just be the person that puts your hand up, be open to opportunities at all times, step forward. I said to a lot of people that it's just about hard work. What I realised as I got a bit older was actually it's kind of work hard, think harder. So take that time to really think about things, understand everything. Even now, well, you know this because you know the way I work, but I spend a lot of time reading, thinking. That's a lot of my evening and weekend time is thinking, how can I get better? So actually, that's probably my tip to everybody would just try and be better every day. Just try and be a slightly better version of yourself each and every day. Try and take away that one little bit of learning, whatever it is. Just be open to that. I think that is the best bit of advice, is just keep growing. And I think if you have that mentality, that growth mindset, I think that you will continue to thrive.
Yeah. Well, wow, what an inspirational conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you again.
My pleasure.
For being here today. And I'm going to thank our audience as well for tuning in. See you next time.